Good evening and welcome to Undoing I Do with Stephanie and Ade. I'm I'm Stephanie Hunnell, the owner of the Hunnell Law Group in Asbury Park, New Jersey.
Hi, I am Adela Sherilyn Dow, the owner of the law offices of Adela Sherilyn Dow in Staten Island. Hey, how you doing?
Good. How
You
are
did
you?
not say that you did not say that you were our co-host.
I
So
didn't say that this time. I held back, which is why I mispronounced my own last name. Because in my head, I was trying to remember not to say it.
But we're Stephanie and Ade with Undoing I Do, and we're here, and we're going to talk about a whole bunch of tea and drama. And I kind of sort of like the drama, although I will admit I don't follow any of these celebrities too much. But this one is kind of juicy, though.
It is really juicy. You know what I liked about this one and why I wanted to talk about this one for a little bit too is because this divorce had been going on since 2016. So they filed in like September of 2016 and they did not actually finalize their everything related to their divorce until this year.
And if you want to know who they are, we are talking about Brangelina. Okay, I guess we can't call them that now. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. And I didn't know that their divorce was so dramatic. I mean, until you told me about it, I was just like, But first of all, I also thought that they were married for much longer. They only got married in 2014. So they were married for 2 years, and then they had 17 kids. But then I had to read the backstory and find out that some of the kids are hers, and then he adopted them. I'm like, oh, okay. Because I don't know where I was during that whole situation.
I know. I think they only have 3 biological children that are there.
Yes.
I was also surprised that they had only been married for 2 years. I thought they were married for a lot longer. They've been together for a lot longer.
Yeah, because their kids, I mean, their eldest is 19. Mm-hmm. But I definitely thought that they were married for all of the time that they were together. I mean, were they even married when they did Mr. and Mrs. Smith then?
No.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith they weren't. That movie is amazing, by the way.
I really like that movie. I actually think that's where they met, was during Mr. and Mrs.
Smith. And was he still dating Jennifer at the time?
He was married.
Oh, my bad. Yeah. Okay, well then.
Yep. Mm-hmm. He was married to Jennifer then.
So, my mom...
I know them personally.
I know, right? Well, I don't know them because I'm just telling a whole different story. But my mom always told me that the way you get somebody is the way you keep them. So, yeah. That's kind of...
That was already some bad juju out there.
Yeah, affarages never, people, what you all have to understand is that affarages have a horrible success rate. They don't usually work. Y'all might want to think about that a little bit more. And I'm not judging you. I want you to lead a happy life. Just think about it.
One thing to think about with that is, you're not going to trust that person because that person cheated with you. So if you start seeing a little sign, even if they're not cheating on you, that in the back of your mind, you're going to be thinking that they're cheating.
Who's on that phone? Who are you talking to? Mm-hmm. What? Are you serious? Are you sure that you were really just ordering 1-800-Flowers? Are you sure it's DoorDash? Because that sounds a whole lot like... Right? Checking their DMs and everything. I can't be living in that life.
In the bathroom.
It's too much, right? When your husband is in the bathroom for too long. And you're like, what are you laughing at? Listen, I can't live that kind of life. Life is already way too complicated.
It is.
Way too complicated. People, I mean, again, not judging, but, you might want to try at least, because sometimes you can't. Sometimes you meet somebody and that's like, that really is the love of your life. You just can't, wait. But you might want to try it if you can, because these things are just way too complicated. But so how many kids do they have?
So they have six kids. Yep.
6 kids. And here's the thing that I just learned today. Apparently, the judge who did their divorce and is doing their custody is also the judge who married them. Did you read that?
Nope, didn't know that.
So now Angelina just appealed their case, right? She just appealed the custody decision.
Oh, did she just file an appeal? Because I know it was still a little bit
Yes.
up in the air, like a rumor that she was going to.
Yes. So the background, I'll let you tell the background. Then I'm going to say what I think about this.
There's no background. I mean, the background has just been utter chaos. It originally started with some false allegations regarding child abuse and neglect. And I shouldn't even say neglect, like literal child abuse. He was on Brad Pitt was on a private plane with the kids, and there was some kind of issue that supposedly he hit one of the kids, the older child. Angelina reported it to what's equivalent to their DCPMP in California. They did an investigation, and then the two of them were just like in the media trying to like sway everybody to their side. Ultimately, the DCPNP dismissed everything against Brad Pitt, but not before he was already tainted. Brad Pitt was. And then she ended up getting primary custody at the very beginning of the litigation. He was constantly fighting to get additional parenting time, which she challenged him apparently almost every step of the way. It wasn't until like 2016, I think she was still requiring him to do therapeutic visits. At one point, she was requiring him to do a drug and alcohol testing, which he apparently volunteered to do because he was trying to just like nip it in the bud and say, nothing's going on. I want custody. I want, more meaningful time with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
The process of all of this, speaking of meaningful, she filed an application with the court saying that Brad Pitt was not paying meaningful child support. And it turns out he had paid $9 million in child support from 2016 to 2018.
Listen, I don't know what you call meaningful, but that's not no money. Okay. We need at least 11 million. Okay.
Why don't we just say 12? So it's like $1 million a year for each child. So yeah, I mean, and then it went on.
Can you imagine, Steph? Like, really?
I want to imagine.
I do want to imagine. I don't want to be in all of their drama because that's too much for my life. I always thank goodness for my boring little life. But yeah, run me some of that money though, because I will definitely look. But she has 6. Okay, but still, no. You don't need all of that.
By the way, she also has a lot of her own money.
Right. It's not like Angelina's poor. So can you imagine?
So just like speaking of, just to put this into like a little bit of a comparison with Britney Spears and Kevin Federline, he has a really substantial child support amount, but he also wasn't making her kind of money if there was like the role reversed. So they're at a pretty even footing. She may even make more than Brad Pitt did at certain stages of their
right, especially with like the Disney, like with the Disney aspect of her stuff. Like when you're Maleficent and stuff, you're pulling in some ridiculous coin. Mm-hmm. Brad is famous. Don't get me wrong, but hello, Maleficent. Yeah, no, not gonna be on the. But I am just so she was awarded primary custody, and then after trial, a judge granted them joint custody, which I thought was out there because if we have all of these allegations, how is it? I don't know what California law is. We do not represent people in California. We are not barred in California, even though Stephanie is from California. But how do you give people who obviously don't get along with each other joint custody of kids? Like, how is that? How does that work?
Well, so going back a little bit, Brad Pitt was granted, and and Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt agreed on an interim schedule at some point in like 2018 or so. So Brad Pitt actually filed the application for 50-50 joint custody because he wanted the extra custody. But I don't think anything had been finalized by then. So I did look up California law regarding this, and it's very similar to, here in New York and New Jersey. You have to prove a change of circumstances, and it has to be substantial and in the best interest of the children. So it's not an easy hurdle to overcome. No. So like you said, the 50-50 was a little bit of a shock if they had already agreed to something different. But if that interim agreement was just an interim agreement and he still preserved his rights, to do like a best interest evaluation and all of that, they had 20 witnesses during this trial.
And apparently the kids testified.
I thought the older ones might have, and I thought some of them were barred from testifying. Of course, the record is sealed, so we don't know all of the details.
By the way, we don't know any of this is true. We are just reading the commentary. Okay, people do not sue us. Do not sue us. We don't know. Okay.
No independent investigation other than TMZ, People, whatever other ones I looked at that were online.
Right, E and all of them. So please direct it to them and not to us. But the worst thing is having to have people's kids testify. And to me, so I don't know whether they really testified or whether they had what we call an in-camera, where the children are talking to the judge separate and apart from the parties, not in the courtroom, usually with the judge and the judge's law clerk, which is his or her personal attorney, or whether they were full on in court, because that is horrible. And I've had that happen where older kids have testified against parties, and it is the most heartbreaking thing to see a child, no matter how old they are, having to pick sides like that.
Mm-hmm. I had a 15-year-old. It wasn't for my case, but I was waiting on a case out in the hallway, and this 15-year-old child had to go in and testify in their parents' divorce. Let's get to hear what the testimony was, because the judge kicked all of us out of the courtroom at the time, which is they don't have to do that. But judges are also sensitive to the fact that this is a very difficult process for kids. It doesn't matter that they're a little older. But anyway, after her testimony, she came out and she was just in tears, sobbing. I felt so bad for her. So whatever she had to say, that was traumatic, and she's going to remember that forever.
For the rest of her life. Look, I have a case right now where the child is now 19, but when the child was 14 or 15, she testified, or was forced to testify, in a case, in a divorce case. And to this day, she is scarred by it. I don't know whether Brad and Angelina didn't get the memo that most other celebrity couples get, but this ain't cute. Y'all up in here spending all of this money when you all should probably be going to a mediator or someone who's a neutral who can help you all figure this out. But it does bother me if the allegation that the judge who's handling their divorce married them is true. That really does bother me. And apparently Angelina filed a motion to have the judge recuse himself. And in New York and in New Jersey, judges, when they have motions like that before them, they are the one who decides the motion. So it's kind of sort of dicey. It's we have clients say to us all the time, "Oh, well, can we just file to have the judge removed?" Yeah, but you're filing to that judge, so and it's that judge is making the decision, because people really think that it's some other judge who will make the decision, which would actually seem more fair.
Right? Nope, that's not the case, because another judge isn't going to review a fellow colleague.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Let me ask you, so I didn't read anything about this judge having married them, because the first time I heard it is from you just now. Do you know the circumstances? Was it just that they happened to go to court to get married, and this is the judge that was assigned, and that judge doesn't know them from anyone? Or was it like they knew this judge and they asked this judge personally to marry them?
So I don't know, because here's the thing. Apparently, when Angelina filed to have the judge recused, she cited the judge's failure to failure to disclose his business relationships with people, with either Brad indirectly or people that Brad has business relationships with. And so this is weird, because if her allegation is true, you would think, number one, the judge would have needed to disclose if the judge knew, right? So this is not apparently this is not a situation where the judge just has a whole bunch of shares in a company and has no idea that, oh, this is a company that Brad does business with or Brad owns. That's not what it seemed like, and all the records are sealed. So I don't know. I'm just reading from the tabloids.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's the case, the judge, at least in New York and New Jersey, would have had the obligation to disclose the relationship and most likely would have seen the names and said, oh no, sorry, supervising judge, I can't take this case. And it would never even gotten before him.
Right, because if you have a business relationship with one of the litigants, that's an issue. I have had judges recuse themselves because their kids go to the same school as another attorney that's on the other side of the case. They really try to be sensitive about that fact. I don't know the circumstances behind this. I also know that sometimes litigants try to create an issue where there might not be one. So a few years back, I had, there was a picture of a judge with a friend of the husband's at like some club, country club. And so the wife said, well, they go to the same country club because that's the friend at the country club. And then the husband had gone to that country club. And so she was trying to get the judge recused, and the judge was like, I don't know your husband. So there's no basis.
Okay, I just posed for a picture with him. I have no idea who he is. We were just all shooting golf balls and he was just there. I don't know who he is, But I've had judges do the same thing where they, recuse themselves because the kids go to the kids, not the kids of the attorney, but the kids of the litigants go to the same dance troupe or something like that. And they say, okay, yeah, this is a little too close for comfort. I'm going to recuse myself. Mm-hmm. But if you just happen to see the judge at Perkins the other night, no, that's not going to be a basis. That's not going to be a basis.
This is also such a unique circumstance because it's Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. So it's not like you're going to forget having met them or you're going to forget doing business with one of them. It's something that's going to stand out in your mind. It's not like, oh yeah, Joe Smith is also on this letter. Right. I have no idea who this is.
Exactly. Hello. Absolutely. I need to dig more into that because that just sounds wrong. It just doesn't, it sounds like it's completely wrong. So apparently Angelina had been denied the ability to bring a certain evidence before the court. And so now she's filing the appeal based upon having an unfair trial, and I guess the judge not allowing her to present some of this evidence. I don't know what the basis of not presenting the evidence was, but we're trial lawyers, so we may have fabulous evidence, but we weren't able to get it in because the evidence isn't authenticated, so you don't even know whether it's real or it's otherwise in some way unreliable, or it's not certified because it's a business record. There's all kinds of reasons why you wouldn't be able to get evidence in, including something called failure to lay a foundation,
right.
whereby you didn't make it clear in your questioning why this evidence was going to be relevant, and so therefore you couldn't even bring it, you couldn't even introduce it in the first place.
Right. One of the things about this appeal, and I was reading another article, obviously a tabloid, and they were talking about how she had her set schedule before, and that was what the kids were accustomed to. And part of her concern about the 50-50 was that the kids are already accustomed to the schedule, and switching to 50-50 was going to be a problem. And what I was reading into that part of it, because I have a little bit of a bias against Angelina Jolie, because I think she's a little bit nuts with the blood hanging from her, necklace from Billy Bob Thornton. You know about that? So her
ex, what? That was a moment of silence, people, because I was just shocked and awed at what.
So her
isn't Billy Bob Thornton her ex-husband?
Yes, her ex-husband Billy Bob Thornton. She got some kind of necklace made where she put his blood inside of like a little ampule, and she used to wear that around her neck. And I just thought that was like the most bizarre thing. First of all, you said
okay, mm-hmm.
And that just did it for me. Nope.
That's like a lot.
That's like being off, a little bit off. as
That's
well.
a lot. That's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
No offense to people who think that that's cool. Like, I'm sure that somebody thinks that that is like the most romantic thing. Like, you always have your partner with you. You even have their blood. Like, bump the lockets of hair. I got old boy's blood right up in my locket. Are you serious though?
So
That's so
that
weird.
just gives me kind of the idea that she's a little bit not all together there sometimes, but she's
Yeah,
also
she's
done
interesting.
amazing things with like across the country, across the not the United States, across the world. Uh,
Yeah, absolutely.
Great things. So, but anyway, my point was that when you get a custody order that's too favorable, sometimes in your mind, you think that's never going to change. And then when it progresses and moves forward, and the court then later says, well, I do think it's in the best interest of the kids to have like a 50-50 schedule, that's a really hard thing to swallow because,
Yeah.
especially in a case where it's taken this many years, like 5 years, they've had a lot of years of being primarily with her.
Right. Yeah. And but you know what? And I think that most people just feel like it's not going to change just by virtue of what you just said, by virtue of the fact that the children have been with her for such a long period of time. And so, but that's not the case. I mean, that's not always the case. This stuff is all fact sensitive. And so, a judge and it's also subject to, quite frankly, the biases of the judge. Look, we're all just human beings. We all have biases, and it's almost impossible to stamp out and root out all of the biases that you have. And so, I don't know what role that played in this judge's decision, but generally, you are not going to uproot the kids so drastically that it would severely interrupt their ability to be in some equilibrium, some peace with whatever's going on. So, yeah.
And also their ages play a factor into this decision. So we don't know that the judge wasn't saying like earlier they were younger, so they should continue to remain primarily with mom. And now they're all teenagers, and we're really only talking about the youngest 3 or 4. Right. I don't even think it addresses the 17-year-old Zahara, but I think it's really mainly for the 3 youngest ones. And my youngest, they're 15 and 13.
Right.
So, I mean, the court could have said, well, now they're teenagers and, a 50-50 schedule can work out better for them.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, because they're no longer in the tender years where they need to be more coddled and, so on and so forth. And but I still find it interesting then, because usually when kids get into their teenage years, they don't spend that much time with their parents anyway. Anyway, they're trying to run.
No, they have their friends, they have their school.
Right. Sometimes
And,
people are fighting for 50-50 custody or whatever of kids, and the kid is 15, and I'm saying to myself, okay, so the court's going to lose jurisdiction over these kids in 3 years. Are we really going to do this right now, or are we going to try to figure out some kind of schedule that allows us to make this work? So yeah, I'm trying to figure out at this point in these children's lives, what is the real gain for the kids by doing all of this? Unless there really is some kind of safety concern, because she was alleging domestic violence and saying that the children had things to say with regards to domestic violence allegations, and they weren't allowed to be questioned, and so on and so forth. So I wonder what the nature of the domestic violence was. Was it domestic violence between him and the kids, as you were indicating before with the hit, or was it domestic violence that the children may have witnessed between the two of them? Yeah, I really want to know.
yeah, and prior to this, there was a lot of gossip about. I never really heard anything about Brad Pitt, but I did hear things about Angelina Jolie being very combative with her previous partners.
But she didn't have any kids with her previous partners.
Correct.
So this is why none of this stuff is really that, right?
Yeah.
Now when you have kids with people, everything is so much more highly scrutinized than it was when you're just single and ready to mingle and, dipping and doing without children.
100%. And also, whoever you might have been 10, 15 years ago, it really matters who you are now or within the last couple of years during this litigation. So you could have been the craziest, wildest party person in the world, but that shouldn't be held against you at this time. So, I mean, I'm also telling you, I'm making judgments about the blood in the ampule and all of that, but that really has no significance other than to tame my own mind.
That really is a lot. That really is a lot. I don't understand. And now I'm going to have to look that up because I really want to follow and understand what the heck this is about.
You know what's a really odd thing as well? I don't know if you've read it, but apparently I'm looking it up on April 12th of 2019, the judge ruled that they were considered legally single. But
yeah, I saw that.
But they continued to finalize the divorce.
What's that?
I've never heard of that before. And I put it in quotes because it wasn't that they did the divorce and then just left the rest of the issues to be resolved or bifurcated. It just said that they were ruled legally single. I didn't even know that was a status.
Yeah, I don't even understand that. I mean, and here's the thing. As my lights just went out, I have motion detector lights, and I thought that they were going to stay on, but they didn't. So anyway,
now we're cozy.
What'd you say?
Now we're cozy.
Now we're all cozy. Yeah, I feel, But here's the thing. So people can get divorced, right? And then deal with what we call the ancillary issues of the divorce separately. But that's not usually done in New York and New Jersey. Not usually. And if you're doing this in New York and you get divorced, you file for divorce under irretrievable breakdown of the marriage, which means that you just don't get along with each other for 6 months or more, you actually can't get the judgment issued unless all of the other ancillary issues such as custody, and parenting time and equitable distribution are also done. So, but I remember we had a show during COVID with Rebecca Levin, and she was mentioning some stuff to us about PA, where apparently different parts of the case actually went before different judges. And so I could see that if that's a thing in California, I could see that being the situation where you can legally be divorced, and then all of your other stuff is just not resolved.
Right. She was saying something with different courts and different judges resolving different parts of the case, which would make sense if that was the case as well. Also, in New Jersey, I mean, you could file an application and request that the court, bifurcate the case so you could end one part of it and then you can continue on the other one. And maybe that's something that could have happened here because they were only married for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And were continuing to do their work and accumulate assets. So maybe they wanted to put a stopgap to that. And they both actually did agree that they should be considered legally single so they can just finish up the custody part of this, as far as I understand.
How much do you think they've spent on this custody?
Oh, Lord.
Whew.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not into the $1 million range.
It would have to be, right? It would have to be into the millions.
But they would have to have experts. They had 20 witnesses. I mean, this went on for 5 years. And they had multiple attorneys too.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, because let's think about this, right? If Brad Pitt comes into a divorce attorney's office, they're not getting a $5,000 or $6,000 retainer. So, yeah, what is that retainer? What is that? 100,000, maybe? I mean, it might even be more. It might be more.
I bet in his circumstance, for sure, it was like I had to be like $150,000 to $200,000 retainer. I would be guessing because he already had issues because he had to deal with the DCP&P stuff to start off with. Like out of the gate, that was an issue within the first month or so. So, I mean, they knew they were going to be gearing up for a fight.
So now my wonder about the DCP&P stuff is, was that leverage? Was that an attempt at leverage? Because this is what people do a lot in these cases where, there was an anonymous call to ACS, which is the Administration for Children's Services in New York City. There was an anonymous call, and we just need you to do a welfare check because we think that something's going on over there. And then it was really something that was done to get a leg up in the divorce case.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's what people are saying on both sides of this camp, is what they call it in the tabloids. They had each separate sources within their, circle of friends or associates or whatever that were both saying that. Brad Pitt's people were saying that Angelina Jolie did this in order to gain a leg up on custody. That she kind of orchestrated some situation to happen. And in reality, it was just a teenager and their father getting into an argument.
Which
that
is a
was
very, very common.
Yep, very common. And then that she was starting to play this in the media because that was her intention all along. And then, of course, she's saying, absolutely not. I wasn't trying to do this. I'm trying to, protect my children and want to make sure they're healthy and safe. And by the way, the DCPNP did investigate, and it took 8 weeks. And once they were satisfied, they released the case, and making it sound, 8 weeks is really not a long time to do the investigation.
That really isn't. That really is not a long time at all.
But for people who don't know, and you're saying that in the media, you're saying, oh, it was 2 whole months. It was 8 weeks that they were doing this investigation. So they cleared him. And since they cleared him, I'm okay now. So,
I just don't know how I feel about that.
The timing of it was really suspect because it happened. She filed in November of 2016. They were doing some kind of a counseling or something right before that. In 12 of 2016 is when this whole thing I'm totally wrong. September of 2016, she filed for a divorce. November of 2016, he filed an answer. And within a week, this whole incident happened.
Mm-hmm. Still possibly leverage. Mm-hmm. Still possibly leverage. That's something that happens all the time. And, one of the things is, well, how the heck do you protect yourself from something like that? Well, the best way to protect yourself is to not be guilty of all the stuff that they're accusing you of, but also to make sure that you keep a running diary of what is going on. When are you with your kids? Who are you with the kids with? If you know that the other person has a propensity to do these things, you may even want to make sure that you always have a third party on pick up and drop off and things like that, so that you can really safeguard your position and safeguard yourself against these allegations.
Yeah, you have to protect yourself sometimes. And I've had people, unfortunately, during the pickup and exchange, just put the recorder in your pocket so you could record the exchange when it's happening. And then, don't instigate anything, but just at least that way you have a recording. So if later on something is made up, you can say, here's a recording. Because that has happened where the person makes up this huge story that my client has gone in and said, here's the recording. And the judge is like, yep. And has even transferred custody or considered transferring custody to the other party. Because because nothing that you say can be trusted if you're making things up.
We don't trust you. We don't believe you. You could tell us that today is Thursday and we're Stephanie and Ade doing Undoing I Do, and we still won't believe you. We will have to check. We have to check check with our moms, make sure that our names are correct, everything.
I need to see my birth certificate before I agree.
Yeah, I need to see that, okay? Because I don't even know if it's my birthday. I have no idea. Because because you told me, no, because people they just make up this stuff. I even had a case where my client, I advised my client to record everything, and my client did, and then at pick up and drop off, something crazy happened, and the adversary actually tried to shame my client for recording what went down, and. Really? Okay, we're gonna do that. All right. Okay. You're not gonna take responsibility for what you did, but now we're gonna deflect because she's the bad guy. He's the bad guy for recording. No, not gonna work. Not gonna work. Well, this was a really great episode. I love dishing the tea, but I'm gonna tell you, I had to research Brad and Angelina. You were really on with them, but what I really want to talk about is Erica and Tom Girardi's divorce. Okay, we are going to talk about that in the coming weeks because this is so sensational to me. And I don't know, maybe it's because Tom is a lawyer and there's all kinds of allegations of like Ponzi scheme type stuff that was done with the personal injury awards that he got. Rich, really? I'm gonna school you, Rich. Erica Jane, look, that she is from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. They are on right now. You're about to get your Hulu or Bravo TV or whatever subscription.
The documentary or whatever it is on, I think, Hulu or something. I'm going to have to watch it because we will talk about it because I actually didn't know who they are either.
Listen, and Tom was like mega rich and they're all jet setting. They have like 2 private jets and everything. And Erica has an alter ego. It's crazy. You gotta be involved. I'm going to make you a convert. We have a really cool announcement for this week. Stephanie, you want to do it?
Yeah, it's really exciting. You know what? Can you tell me the launch date? Because I don't even know.
June 22nd. You are going to be a part of a wonderful listening experience. Us.
Yes, we are starting our podcast. It will be launched on the 22nd. I didn't remember the launch date, unfortunately. Because, honey, it has been a process getting all of this up and running and going and artwork and decisions.
Girl. And we are busy, badass chick lawyers. We needed to take the time to get this all together.
Yep. But we are excited because we are going to be launching on the 22nd. So you'll be able to hear us, I think, on Spotify, on Apple Play, on all of
Apple. See, this is how you know that Stephanie does not have an iPhone. This girl is up here talking about Apple Play. Girl, it's iTunes. So make sure that you get your iTunes because you know Apple is superior, but that's okay. We will have that conversation another day.
What is Apple Play? That's a thing, right?
No, I don't think so. But
just made it up altogether.
Google Play.
Yes, I have Google Play. I'm Pixel girl.
So we are going to be launching Undoing I Do with Stephanie and Ade, where we give you all facts, no chaser, how to figure out your divorce process.
And we will still be coming to you live every Thursday here on Facebook and YouTube. See you next week.
Thanks for watching. See you